Politics and current events have been the subject of satire and parody since forever. What's new is that some old-school journalism outlets, like the Washington Post, are starting to use comedy to help communicate hard news. Keli Dailey was trained as a journalist, but today teaches satire at St. Mary's College in San Francisco. And she joins us tonight to connect the dots of a changing profession. Keli, it's such a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
So you've been a journalist for a while now. This started as a child, right? In high school?
I was doing televised announcements, much like, no, not at all like your show, but it was daily. And after a while, I really realized how difficult it was to communicate to people over just broadcast because it gets so distracted by how you look. The news was very dull, talking about what to eat at the cafeteria that day or how the football team was doing. Breaking news, alert, steak fingers.
Yeah.
So that's how I got my start. Yeah.
So journalism and comedy, your two passions. What is it about both of them that you like?
Well, holding the powerful accountable is what I like most about journalism, and definitely about comedy. Not all comedy punches up, which is something I love to tell my students in my class in news satire, that you have to choose the right target. Much like if you're a journalist, you have to find the right, abuse to highlight, or the right system that isn't functioning as it should. And so that's a similarity that I really find both institutions have in common, but most people who practice one practice the other.
Really?
I know it sounds surprising. But you see political cartooning, it's based in information, and those are often journalists. They have degrees in journalism, the illustrators. But they're making jokes, they're using visual comedy, and that's been around since forever, making jokes through visual comedy. But then I look at, I don't know if you guys follow American history so closely, I know you do, but Benjamin Franklin, our founding father, was a journalist and a satirist. And it just was a real easy move and transition for him to make all the time, with either writing essays about, King George, or Farting Proudly was the name of one of his essays, Benjamin Franklin. Most people haven't read that one, which is a really weird title for a founding father, but,
Why do you think the two work so well together?
What works so well about mixing the two is that you want to approach people where they are. You want to tell them information that might engage and hold their attention on both accounts. A journalist wants to talk to people and tell them a story, and often with comedy, you want to show, not just tell. And I think they work so well together because they're storytelling at their heart.
Tell me about the project that you did for your master's thesis, which combined comedy and journalism.
Yeah, as a journalist, you are, very serious about your topics, and I had heard a lot about streets named Martin Luther King, after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., how people were resisting the renaming of streets to MLK, or people had a prejudice against these MLK streets as being unsafe. And when I say that, I had heard a comedian, Chris Rock, maybe you know Chris Rock.
Yeah, it's big, some guy.
Yeah, this little no-name Chris Rock.
Yeah.
And he had a joke that was like, Martin Luther King stood for nonviolence. And no matter where you're at in America, if you're on MLK, there's some violence going on.
Well, Martin Luther King stood for nonviolence. Now what's Martin Luther King? A street. And I don't give a where you in America. If you're on Martin Luther King Boulevard, there's some violence going down.
And we all laughed because, comedy is based in truths, and we really just thought, like, that's right, MLK's, they're not safe. But I said, why is that? I wonder, how did this monument to this great American hero become a place we're afraid of, or that we don't want in our neighborhood, we don't want an MLK street anywhere near us. And so I drove around in my car around America and took pictures for 2 years to just see, what did it look like? What is this space? Is it something to be afraid of?
Was he right?
It's complicated. There were times where, I should back up and say, the thing that makes these streets unsafe has nothing to do with the streets. It has to do with what we would allow these streets, where we would allow them to be. And often they would be only relegated to poor black neighborhoods, right? That people would resist them in an integrated neighborhood or in a white, wealthy neighborhood. They just refused to honor this man, whom we get a national holiday for. And it was pretty ridiculous that so many parts of town could only wear this one label. And it was changing. Some of the streets I went to were just, well integrated in Austin and, Portland. Like there's so many places that resist the stereotype. But for me, the most interesting thing was just how the comedy from Chris Rock really set me off into this exploration. Was that the first time? It was the first real blending of comedy and reporting that I had done, where the comedy, it informed the journey, but I didn't make any jokes myself. I was very serious about documenting these streets. And then later on, I thought, I'm taking myself too seriously, and really started to find more jokes in my work. And you'll see that with News Hangover. You just can't take yourself seriously after a while as a journalist. And after 15 years of doing it, you run a correction, you get to start over again fresh every day. It's a really funny field, and I think more people are exploring this space. Jimmy Kimmel, a late night show, has been talking a lot about one of the big conversations in the US, which is the health debate. Yeah. And in this clip, we're going to show a clip, he sums up some of the opposition to people saying that comedians have no business talking about policy.
I understand the gist of what he's saying. I should not be the guy you go to for information on healthcare, and if these guys like inbred John Kennedy would tell the truth for a change, I wouldn't have to. I see these comments from these angry people. They say, what qualifies you to talk about this stuff? You're a comedian. Go back to being not funny. And I feel like it's my duty to remind these people who are so concerned about my qualifications, the guy you voted for president, his job qualification was this.
Meatloaf, you're fired.
Okay? He fired Meatloaf on television. And then you put him in the White House. So I'm going to say it again. It's more important than ever to call your senators and tell them not to gut American health care, not to turn their backs on people with pre-existing conditions.
There we have Jimmy Kimmel talking about, I think, a conversation that's really difficult for people to get around, which is healthcare. So he's using comedy to break down policy. If comedy can do that, do you think that journalism can do the same thing?
Break down policy in a way that people can understand and relate to, certainly. And with
like be funny. Can journalism be funny in order to relay hard news to people?
I think journalism has always embraced comedy. I think we're leaning harder into that space. There's always been a Venn diagram of journalism and comedy, and now there's a little bit of overlap more in straight news outlets like the Washington Post, which you mentioned earlier. Can journalism embrace comedy? Certainly, at least we're trying. And the motive, I think, is probably a more important conversation to have. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Why would journalism be interested in being in the comedy space more? Why occupy an area that might make people laugh at some difficult subjects and difficult topics of the day? And I would argue that it's to reach people in a way that doesn't depress them. I feel a lot of, I was talking to a lot of young women when I was making my News Hangover work, and they said, news is so sad, it's so depressing, I feel so helpless. Like, it just turned them off, the idea that they'd have to listen to another refugee crisis or, another injustice being done. And comedy is a way to kind of give you the cathartic experience as well as the information, give you a respite from some of the horrors of the day, but also the information.
Well, I'm glad you brought up News Hangover because we have a clip of that, and this one is called Your Mama and Economics. Let's take a look.
Oh, your mama's so middle class that she put paper on the TV and thought she was watching pay-per-view.
Your mama's so middle class, she put a milkshake on layaway. Your mama's so middle class, she braid hair, sell weed, and babysit all out the same kitchen.
You know my boy Robert Reich,
Yeah.
the former Secretary of Labor. This guy kicks some knowledge about what middle class is.
Yeah.
Yeah, his calculations say it's between $25,000 and $75,000 a year.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Huge difference. It's like the difference between a Kia Sorento and an Audi S6. Your paycheck could be either one of those and you're considered middle class.
So what are you trying to say though?
If you're making the equivalent of a Kia a year, I think it means middle class is the new poor.
Did you know that birds don't have saliva?
Birds?
Birds.
So much to know.
I mean, we chose that clip partially because Robert Reich has been on the show. That was actually really funny. But what was your aim with News Hangover?
So it's really surprising, but women have less political knowledge than men. Some of the surveys at the time in 2013 were saying in the UK and Canada, in the USA, women were not as informed. They weren't engaging in news products. They really weren't watching or reading and learning about current affairs. And some of that was, in my hypothesis, that they weren't seeing themselves represented. You know, the bylines, the people on TV, the sources of news, and also that news was a little tedious and boring. And what women were telling us, that we did a lot of user research at the time, and what they were saying was just kind of like, it's not interesting. And so we thought, what if we did news in a sketch format? You know, what if we told stories or did absurd things, but also wedged in some information there? Because maybe women's tastes aren't exactly like Jon Stewart on The Daily Show with somebody just behind a news desk delivering jokes. Maybe they have like a different sensibility. And on some of the episodes, you'll see us going out on dates and kind of wedging in some news information in there, or you'll see us like in the workplace, like stressing out and wedging in information. And we tested that after we put together 20 episodes, and we tested that with girls and young millennial women, and we found out that they were able to retain the information more in this format, that they laughed, which was important. They shared the work, which is important for, it's like amplifying this message. And it really is what's shown in comedy news in general, that people can understand and retain the messages more if they get it with a dose of comedy, just a little bit.
So it's safe to say that comedy is kind of like a gateway into hard news.
Totally a gateway. I'm so glad you used that term, because a lot of people will hear a little bit about Rob Reich and be like, well, who is he again? And then Google to find out more about his work and his, he used to date Hillary Clinton. Like, there's like so much to know about.
Really?
Yeah. He talked about this in an interview recently. It's pretty funny. It went nowhere. Obviously, she ended up with Bill Clinton, and the story wrote itself after that. But the idea that people will hear a little bit in these comedy nuggets, you know, Jimmy Kimmel even was talking a little bit about healthcare, and you might say, well, how do I feel about that? Or what's my state's involvement in healthcare? What does my senator think about this healthcare thing? And it's just an introduction to the conversation, an entryway, and it's been working really well for a long time in America.
Do you think that it depends on the host, on the person who's delivering it?
Definitely. Samantha Bee, Toronto native, she has forged a new space in news satire in America because she is delivering it as a woman through a female perspective. And she's covering topics that you know you're getting a female feminist take on. And that's not something any of the other men who have occupied that space in American TV could offer us, nor are they doing a really good job on it. Diversity in the comedy news space really brings more people in, and right now she's killing it in the ratings. Like, she has grown so much since debuting in February of 2016. Right now, like, she's tripled since, of course, since Trump has taken office, and really offered a new perspective. So we definitely need more voices in the comedy news space, and that's also what I was attempting to.
You've done it. It makes me think about, if there's not that much happening in the world, would there be material for hosts like Samantha Bee?
That's a great question. I would love to have not that much material in the world anymore. Can we go back to like peaceful times with no news to talk about?
But how do you write jokes when there's so much, it seems like there's so much bad news in the world?
The bad news yields more opportunity for highlighting wrongs. So if you can imagine satire as exposing a truth and ridiculing a wrong or an evil, and wanting to offer a solution or a corrective, then there's too much to satirize. And if anything, I'm finding that there's like too much to talk about. It's really hard to cherry pick the issues of the day. I don't know if you've seen Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
With John Oliver, yes.
They go really deep into issues that are not necessarily a part of the news cycle. So it's not all Trump all the time. It'll be about bails and how they punish the lower class, and something about net neutrality. I mean, really arcane topics that you would never, if you had a menu of topics you wanted to make fun of for the day, you probably wouldn't check off some of these like ridiculous policy questions or chicken farming or something like that. There's a wealth of material to make fun of right now. If anything, it was much quieter under President Obama. A lot of people said, Saturday Night Live wasn't that interesting under President Obama. They had the actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson come on and do like Barack as like a really angry rock, and that sort of hit, but it didn't get the viewership for that show that they're enjoying now. It just seems like simpler times in the past, and since 2015, since that presidential election in America began, more people have been generating content more than any human being could consume. I'm a huge fan of political satire, and even if you take a break over the weekend, you will miss so many Kimmel incidences or Twitter explosions. Yeah. Everything is happening right now. Almost, it's too much. It's hard to keep up with it. It's like drinking from a fire hose at this point.
But then we turn to the comics and we laugh. Hopefully laugh. You're also part of an organization that's launched a new satire show in Nigeria. Yeah. I find that really interesting. Yeah. Why Nigeria? And what is it?
Pilot Media Initiatives, I'm on the advisory board. It's a social enterprise out of New York. And a former writer from The Daily Show joined a guy who's worked in the development space, the aid space, for a long time. And what they've done is say, in a struggling economy, or in a place where the press isn't free, or a place where conversations that are taking on the government are discouraged, political satire is a great Trojan horse. That they've gone to Macedonia and Kyrgyzstan and set up political satire TV shows there. And
why does it work so well in those environments?
Well, there's nothing like it. In America, we have a ton of shows to choose from and a ton of comedy to choose from. In Nigeria, the show that they started is called The Other News. They went in July to partner with the most popular TV station, Channels TV in Nigeria. And they said, we've got funding from the Open Initiative, I think it's a Soros Foundation. What if we came in and helped you create a political satire show? We'll bring in a comedian as host. We guarantee you a youth audience, and you'll have a social media presence, because these shows, the clips are shared, you'll find them on YouTube. And it is owning its time slot. It got like 16% share. It's 1.5 million viewers. People are retaining the news information within the comedy. They've tested people, and they're responding. They think it's funny too. It has to be funny first, but it has to also be useful information. And right now, the president has been off and on in Nigeria, and really there's lots of corruption to make fun of, and in a way that doesn't somehow dispirit and demoralize all the viewers. So it's a theory that more people are turning to internationally, not just in America, but a lot of people are saying, like, this is a great way for consumers to access traditional news products if we just make them a little funnier.
And how do you distinguish? I mean, we're talking about news and fake news. If it's
Oh.
a joke, how do you distinguish that from being what actually happened?
It's really difficult. I think we've entered a new era where, you know, the news consumer, we're asking them to do a lot. See if this is a credible source or double check the information. Jon Stewart came out recently on The Late Show with Colbert and said, make sure you find 3 sources that are confirming whatever anyone is saying. That's a lot to ask of people, but if you turn to a trusted name over and over again, you will likely find the best information. You know, the people I watch, they have journalists on their staff. This is a really interesting time where journalists are finding another career
Comedy writers.
as comedy writers. I mean, they're providing at least the investigative material, and then the comedians get it from them. So it's like trusted, factual information that's being sluiced up to the comedian. But as a news consumer, it is a difficult time. We were saying that with social media, my friends and I have been talking about, you know, Facebook is how half of adults are getting their news these days. And I think right now Facebook is being investigated in America for having pushed out so many of the fake Russian-sourced news stories that really seem to affect our 2016 election. And, you know, if my mom shared it, I might have seen it, and then how am I supposed to know that it's not sourced correctly?
Because it's not just a social media platform anymore. It feels like it's a news agency as well.
It's a news agency. It's how we're getting our news.
I've always been under the impression that you're born funny. But you actually say you can teach people how to be funny?
I think so. Like, there's an old saying, if like you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing, right? I feel like if you can laugh, then you have some potential in you to create that in other people.
How do you do that?
That's why I teach a class. It's very involved. It takes weeks. But a lot of people are taking comedy classes right now. I think there's like a new cottage industry of people trying to find the funny within themselves. And it's you know, learning some of the tricks, like with any field. For instance, the rule of 3. If you give examples, the first one is what you would expect, the second one is what you would expect, the third one is a surprise. And that's the joke. Right there, if you do a rule of 3, you've already become a comedian as far as I'm concerned.
Keli, it's been great having you on the show.
You're a sweetheart.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.